Joining us now to talk about the trial of Kermit Gosnell, a man who catered to minorities, immigrants, and poor women, is Joseph Slobodzian. Slobodzian from the Inquirer. Hello, Joseph. Thanks for taking the time to be with us, sir.
My pleasure, Steve.
Sorry about the name. I had it right when in rehearsal, and then I botched it. All right, this trial. First of all, weigh in on the fact that this is not getting any national attention whatsoever, and you would think that a trial of this nature, this many dead babies, someone who victimized the poor women of a poor community, would gain national attention easily.
Well, certainly we think it's an important trial. I mean, my paper has me in there every day, and I'm writing several stories a day. I know the New York Times was here the first day for the opening statements to the jury, and some of the local affiliates of the national television networks have been here on the first day. I can't explain why they're not here now. I mean, certainly it takes a huge commitment of time to cover a trial from front to back that's going to go 6 to 8 weeks. But certainly, you know.
But believe me, there are groups, Joseph, that cover the media and their coverage of stories, and the network news shows and the morning network news shows, and you know none of them are talking about this trial at all. So, and I believe there's only one explanation, and that is the built-in bias. But let's talk a little bit about the trial and where it is, and for the folks out there, again, I think I summed it up at least with the charges that this Kermit Gosnell, who worked at the Women's Medical Society in Philadelphia, which served poorer women who were seeking abortions. He's charged with 8 counts of murder, 7 of them little born alive babies killed with scissors. I mean, where do we stand? What's been going on during the course of this proceeding?
Well, right now we're in our 3rd week of testimony, and as I said, what will be 6 to 8 weeks of testimony in this trial. Right now we have one of Dr. Gosnell's former employees testifying about what the clinic was like on the night the one woman, Karnamaya Mangar, died of an overdose of anesthesia. And the prosecution is laying out a case that Dr. Gosnell, over a period of almost 30 years, was performing illegal in Pennsylvania, late-term abortions, principally for poor women on a cash basis, and involved in some medically questionable practices. You mentioned the one of infants who are born live during a late-term abortion, of killing them by what he called snipping their spines with surgical scissors, and then a host of other practices. For example, specimen jars with the feet of aborted fetuses stored for some reason in his
freezer
clinic.
Yeah.
So it's really in a lot of ways beyond the pale.
It really is, and of course the defense is yet to present this case, I presume, correct?
Well, that's true, although Dr. Gosnell's lawyer has argued that the technique used in these very late-term abortions, we're talking, 24 weeks and beyond, basically is supposed to kill the fetus in the womb, so that essentially you're evacuating the remains or the body of the fetus from the woman. And his argument is that these children were never born alive. They were dead, and so how could Gosnell be guilty of first-degree murder? That we haven't heard the explanation quite yet of what the motive would be for the scissors. But that's the one side of it. And the other part of it, the third-degree murder charge involving Ms. Mangar's death, is that she never told him that she had a respiratory ailment that made her more vulnerable to anesthesia. And he claims that's what really caused her death, not any sort of medical procedure by Dr. Gosnell.
We're talking to Joseph Slobodzian. He is a writer for the Inquirer in Philadelphia, and he's covering the trial of Dr. Kermit Gosnell, who was charged with 8 counts of murder in the trial that's ongoing right now. What evidence does the prosecution have that these babies were born alive, or what evidence? I'm sure it's not presented yet, but what evidence do you foresee Gosnell's attorneys presenting that they were already born dead?
Well, it's principally going to come from some of the former employees. Dr. Gosnell was charged originally with 9 employees, including his wife. In this case, most of them pleaded guilty, and some of them will testify that they were present when children were born alive and saw the doctor kill them with scissors. There are also 1 or 2 others who are accused of murder or who pleaded guilty to murder charges for doing the same thing. These were employees who had no medical training, but Gosnell allegedly taught them how to do the procedure, and they were doing it also.
Yeah, it is quite astounding, and again, of course, when you talk about the body parts, 5 aborted fetuses, the remains of those 5 fetuses found in a freezer in Gosnell's clinic, and why feet would be cut off and saved. It's just the whole thing is bizarre. I would predict he never takes the stand if I had to predict, because then he'd have to answer these questions. I mean, is there any speculation? Of course, it's a little early in the process, but is there any speculation as to whether or not he will ever take the stand?
No, and in Pennsylvania, they usually don't make a decision until until after the prosecution ends its case, and they're close to it. I would not, however, put it by him to take the stand. He is an unusual man. He is facing the death penalty if he is found guilty of any of the 7 charges of first-degree murder, and he has rejected out of hand every plea offer made by the prosecutors right up until now. He seems to be marching to the
beat of his own
drummer.
Yeah. Now,
own drummer.
One final question for you, Joseph? What's the makeup of the jury as far as women and as far as some who might be sympathetic in some way or not? I mean, you never could tell, but I'm just curious. What is the makeup?
The makeup of the jury is, let me make sure I have this right. It's 7 women, 5 men. And the other interesting thing is, well, the racial makeup of the jury. You have 8 African American, 4 white.
And again,
Dr. Gosnell is African American.
Right. And the women were minorities for the most part. I mean, we could sit here and speculate how that might play into it, but I don't think either one of us are jury experts, although you might be, so I shouldn't speak. But
my expertise is that you never can predict what a jury will do.
Right. And spoken like a good jury expert, by the way. Hey, Joseph, thank you very much. I hope you don't mind if we call on you as this fiasco progresses, because we'd like to stay on top of it here.
Not at all, Steve.
Thank you very much. Joseph Slobodzian. I got it right twice in a row now, of the Philadelphia Inquirer here on the Steve Malzberg Show. When we come back, I was the first last Thursday, to talk about something Bill O'Reilly said on Fox last Wednesday. And now it's become news a week later. And it involves, remember they were talking, Megyn Kelly and O'Reilly were talking about gay marriage in the court, and O'Reilly used the term Bible thumper. Well, we got some interesting sound for you. You're not going to want to miss this as he goes at it with Laura Ingraham on the Fox News channel. Laura sits in for Bill, but he was none too happy. And you know what? Too bad. We'll talk about it on the Steve Malzberg